मोहं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्य ईश्वरं हरि ओं तत्सत्. Just second. And today English. Okay, welcome back you all. Today we are discussing about Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2 and verse number 15. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. यं हीनां व्यत्यन्ते ये पुरुषां पुरुषार्सभां समा दुःखसुखं धीरं सोऽमृतत्वया कल्पते यं हीना व्यत्यन्ते थे पुरुषं पुरुषार्सभा समा दुःखसुखं धीरं सोऽमृतत्वया कल्पते. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. So, translation. O best among men, Arjuna, the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in it, both is certainly eligible for liberation. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Okay, Prabhu. So, just, yeah. And Prabhupada is clearly mentioned here that this translation also, I mean, words. But so we should understand of this. Actually, overall, by sh- this sloka is telling us the tolerance and equanimity. So what it is saying that here, the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation. So here in this, actually in this material world, we are put into Mrutatva, like it is called. What is it is called? Mrutatva means it Mrityu this. Okay. It's subjective to birth, death, old age, and disease. But there is another position also. Where there is no birth, death, old age, and disease. So which position we should like? Birth, death, old age, and disease, or no birth, no death, no old age, and no disease?
No birth, no death, no old, no disease.
Which one we should like? I think we should like no birth, no death, no old age, and no disease, right? As Mataji said. So this is called Amruta Tattva. So Amruta Tattvaya Kalpate Prabhupada is, these verses say that every living entity is Amruta. That will be, Amruta means as we are in our own original constitutional position. We are not subject to birth, death, old age, and disease. Just like Krishna is Satchidananda Vigraha. Brahma Samhita says, Anadir Adir Govinda Sarvakaranaka, like eternal blissful knowledge. Similarly, we being part and parcel of Krishna, we are also the same quality. We have accepted this position of birth, death, old age, and disease on account of our association with this material world. Actually, Krishna is addressing Arjuna, Pur- Purusha Rasapa, the best of the men. Oh, best of the men. Certainly, Krishna is the best of the mankind because he is directly friend of Krishna, I mean, Arjuna, right? Who can be better man than him? The best of them men. So the best of the men, why is distressed in executing his duty? Therefore, this very word is used that you are the best of the men. Okay, one thing I'll tell you. Actually, Arjuna is either warrior or kshatriya. Is not. He is a Vaishnava. Okay, he's a Vaishnava. He just fulfilled Krishna's desires. What Krishna told, that he has fulfilled. That's what in further we learn, right? Actually, the best of the men should not be disturbed by any material condition. He should discharge his duties. And what is his duty? Duty is to become immortal. This is the duty. The lowest of the men does not know how to become immortal, like Amrita. Amrita means death, and Amrita means no death. The modern civilization cannot understand that there is possibility of becoming immortal. They have taken it, accepted like no. Well, okay, who can stop us? They're simply scientifically calculating that someday will come by science we shall be immortal. There will be no death. So Krishna has given as a formula that. What is that formula? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This, how to become immortal? By chanting this mantra, we become immortal. That means you should be callous of this so-called happiness and distress of this material world. That is the first qualification. One who doesn't care what is the distress and happiness of this body, he must execute Krishna consciousness. That is the qualification. Oh, I cannot execute Krishna consciousness because there are so many inconveniences. He is not fit for becoming immortal. One who says. But excuses, we can give so many excuses. But we should understand that we are not this body, we are the soul. Okay? And people do not know that we can become immortal. Immortal we are. But we have been embodied in this material world. Therefore, we have to accept mortality, birth and death. Okay. This thing stated in the Bhagavad Gita, like no, this is the beginning of the spiritual life. Spiritual life means how to become immortal. They come to ask, like, no, Prabhupada, people often come to visit Prabhupada and ask to her, Prabhupada, do you know some spiritual magic and, like, Kundali yoga? Can you see my, like, son's astrology? This, that, all for material benefit. And spiritualist means something magic so that you can get some material benefit. Okay. If by stretching your hand, you can get some little quantity of gold, then you are spiritualist. Is that? People expect that. Wonderful, like, oh, he is such a wonderful spiritualist. He takes out, like, some vibhuti. That's what we are expecting from spiritualist. That's what spirituality means. You connect to God and whatever you desire and you produce it. This is not called spirituality. This is called siddhi. Siddhi doesn't make you become immortal. Okay. Spiritual life means how to become immortal. Amritatvaya. So, Mrutatvaya kalpante, so kalpate, Krishna has explained, Matra svasastu kaunteya, shitosna sukha dukkha, dha agama paino, nityastam titikshasva bharata. Tam titikshasva, don't be disturbed by the sensuous disturbance of the body. Become dhira, dhira, dhira tatrana muhyate, dhiras tatrana muhyate, right? And 13 verse says, so one who has practiced to become dhira, not to become disturbed by the sensuous or bodily sensations. He is supposed to be kalpate. He is supposed to become immortal at the end. And the Bhagavad says also that you do not become a spiritual master. You do not become a father. You do not become a mother. You do not become a friend or a relative. In this way, if you cannot make your subordinate immortal, when Bhagavatam says, right, Pitana sa sayat guru na sa sayat. Guru na sa sayat. Jnani na sa sayat. Pitana sa sayat. This way, you become father of hundreds of children. That's all right. No restriction. You beget children, but you must make your children immortal. So, if parents cannot make their children become Krishna consciousness, they are not qualified to become a parents. Okay. And even if a son cannot be a devotee and he cannot make their parents be Krishna consciousness, then no point of becoming a son of to a parents. It says, right, aputrasya gatir nasti. So says that, like, in Sanskrit says that if you don't have putra, you will not get that sadgati. Like that, even if you have a putra, if he is not a Krishna consciousness, is like Krishna, Prabhupada says, what he says, he's like putra, if he is not in Krishna consciousness, he is like a mutra, right? That is the aim of human life. How to become immortal, how not to become. We are immortal just like a person. He is a deceased, attacked by fever. Fever is not his natural condition, but somehow or other, he has got fever. Similarly, we are immortal. That will be explained, like, najayate namruyate va kadachin. 20th verse says that, right? The living entity never takes birth, never dies, therefore immortal. Immortal means no birth, no death, no. That is immortal. Whenever there is birth, there is death. If there is no birth, there is no death. That is immortality. The whole scheme is, Vedic scheme is not. Otherwise, how to become immortal? You'll find in Bhagavad Gita, Yad Gatvana Nivartante Tadhama Paramam Namam. In 15th chapter, we remember, right? It says it's in many places. The Shastra only aims it in another place also. Mm, Excuse me. Bharati Kavya. When Vishwamitra Muni came to see Maharaj Dasharatha to ask his son Ramchandra and Lakshmana to take them, they were boys at the time. And there was a demon disturbing, like Tataka, right? Tataka only. Tataki. Yeah. So disturbing. So then Vishwamitra Muni came to Maharaj Dasharatha for help. Vishwamitra Muni could kill that demon immediately, but that is not the business of the Brahmana. Killing business is for the Kshatriyas. Just see how he was quite powerful. He could kill the demon simply by saying that you die. Brahmana has all qualities, and he is not ordinary Muni. He was so powerful, Vishwamitra Muni, but still he came to the king for help. So when Vishwamitra Muni came to Maharaj Dashrath, uh, as we ask, how are you? So Dashrath, Maharaj Dashrath inquired from you, oh, Vishwamitra Muni, hi, he says, yat punarjanmayaya. My dear sir, if there is anything disturbance in your occupation because you are trying to conquer old death, all the great rishis and saintly persons, all spiritual realizations means to conquer old death. So here we have to understand two things. Conquering death means not to become against Krishna like Ravana and Hiranyakashipu and all. Conquering death means to become a servant of Krishna in his spiritual world, part of his spiritual world, be immortal and be a part of in the spiritual world and serve him. Golokera Premadana Harinam Sankirtana. By doing Harinam Sankirtana, which like we say we are dasanu 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 das. Say our real position is that. Okay. And we conquer over death to become a immortal in the sense of not to be a demonic or against Krishna. The modern civilization, they do not know that it is possible, right? It is possible to become immortal, to have eternal blissful life of knowledge. That is called immortality. Satchitananda. Sat means eternity and Chit means knowledge. Ananda means pleasure, bliss. We are part and parcel of Krishna. Krishna is Satchitananda Vigraha. His transcendental body is eternal, blissful, and complete knowledge. His body, therefore, he is speaking Bhagavad Gita, right? If he is an ordinary man, what is the use of hearing him? Ordinary man will commit mistake, will cheat, will be loosened, his senses are imperfect. How he can give complete knowledge? That is not possible. Therefore, we are not concerned to hear any, like, Mayavada philosophy. We want to hear Krishna. We are not prepared to hear any Mayavada philosophy. Okay, so-called scientists or so-called philosophers, so-called God, no, we are not prepared because everyone is in that line. Which line? Our own way. My way is highway. That is not good for our bhakti. Everyone is full of mistakes. Everyone is trying to cheat others. Everyone is illusioned and everyone's senses are imperfect. How he can give knowledge perfect? That is not possible. Therefore, we have to select a guru. Guru means Krishna. As Arjuna has selected guru, Shishyaste ham sadimam tvam prapannam. Right? I become your Shishya, disciple, and I surrender unto you. So, to get perfect knowledge, we have to find our Krishna, found out Krishna or Krishna's bona fide representative. Then there is perfect knowledge. Then we can become immortal. Unless we get perfect knowledge, there is no. So, Krishna is Sachidananda Vigraha. Immortal. Krishna is full of bliss, full of knowledge. And we are also part and parcel of Krishna. So we have also the same quality, Satchitananda, the spiritual body. But because we have contacted this material nature, our blissfulness, our eternity, our knowledge, everything is now disturbed. Everything is now disturbed. We cannot be completely blissful. Anything you take, any pleasurable thing you take it, it cannot give you always pleasure. It is not possible. This is not possible in this material world. However, you may try scientifically to prolong your duration of life or duration of your happiness, live forever. It is not possible. And however, you may pose yourself, cheat others, that you are the best man in knowledge, philosopher, scientist, you are a fool. That is not possible, okay? And so, the only solution is that we can also become Krishna along with Krishna. So, become Krishna conscious, right? So, like the great King Bharata, while sitting on the bank of the river, saw the small deer bereft of its mother floating down the river. Seeing this, he felt great compassion. Like a sincere friend, he lifted the infant deer from the waves and, knowing it to be motherless, brought it to his ashram. See, the laws of nature work in a subtle ways unknown to us. Maharaj Bharata was a great king, very advanced in devotional service. He had almost reached the point of loving service to the Supreme Lord. But even from that platform, he could fall down onto the material platform. Okay. The spiritual salvation and liberation from material bondage must be worked out with great caution. Otherwise, a little discrepancy will cause one to fall down again into material existence. By studying the activities of Maharaj Bharata, we can learn that art of becoming completely freed from all material attachment, as it will be revealed in later verses also. Like, and how we, like, Krishna says, right, we should be compassionate by rising one from the material platform to the spiritual platform. Otherwise, at any moment, our spiritual advancement may be spoiled and we may fall down onto the material platform. Like Maharaj Bharat's compassion for the deer was the beginning of his fall down into the material world. Excuse me. So then later he become like, and Jadabharata, actually, you see, in Jadabharata's case, Jadabharata used to work only for food. His stepbrothers took advantage of this and engaged him in agricultural field work in exchange for some food. But actually, he did not know how to work very well in the field. He did not know where to spread dirt or where to make the ground level or uneven. His brother used to give him broken rice, oil cakes, the chaff of rice, okay, warm eaten grains and burned grains that had stuck to the pot. But he gladly accepted all this as if it were nectar. He did not hold any grudges and ate all this very gladly. We should understand that sama dukkha sukham dhiram so vrityatva kalpate. The platform of Paramhamsa is described in this verse. When one is callous to all duality, the happiness and distress of this material world, one is fit for Amrutatva, eternal life. Like Bharat Maharaj was determined to finish his business in this material world and did not at all care for the world of duality. He was complete in Krishna consciousness and was oblivious to good and evil, happiness and distress. As stated in the, like, Chaitanya Charitamrita says, Daivite Badra Bhadrajnana Sab Manodharma Yei Bhale Yei Manda Sabab Brahma. This material world, conceptions of good and bad are all mental speculations. Therefore, saying this is good and this is bad is all a mistake. One has to understand that in this material world of duality, to think that this is good or that this is bad is simply a mental concussion. However, one should not imitate the consciousness. One should actually be situated on the spiritual platform of neutrality. So that's what even Prahlad Maharaj says, right? He's he's like the best among the exalted devotees. We have to. He, yeah, ye tat कीर्तयेन् महायान् त्वया गीतम् इदं नरः त्वां च मां च स्मरन् काले कर्मबन्धात् pramuchyate. He says, one who always remembers your activities and my activities also, and who chants the prayers you have offered becomes fire, like free in due course of time from the reactions of material activities. So that's what he says, right? That dukkeshva anudvignamana sukeshva vigna, vigata spara vitaraga bhayakroda stitadhiru munir uchyate. Like that, anyone who chants and hears about the activities of Prahlad Maharaj and the relationship with Prahlad Maharaj activities, the activities of Narsimhadev gradually become free from all the bondage of fruitive activities. So one who is, that's what dukkeshva anudigna mana, like one who is not disturbed in spite of threefold miseries, who is not elevated when there is happiness, and who is free from attachment, fear and anger, is called a sage of steady mind. A devotee should not be aggrieved in any acquired position, nor should be like he should. Okay, 50. He feel extraordinary happy in material opulence. This is the way of expert management of material life. Because of devotee knows how to manage expertly, he is called Jivan Mukta. Rupa Goswami says in Bhakti Rasam Sindhu, right? Iha yashas hare dasye karmana manasa gira. Ikreshva api avastatashu Jivan Mukta sa uchyate. Says that a person who is acting in Krishna consciousness, like, or in other words, in the service of Krishna, with his body, mind, intelligent words, tan man dhan, kaya mano vakya, was is a liberated person. Even with this material world, although he may be engaged in many so-called material activities because of constantly engaging in devotional service. In any condition of life, a devotee is free from all material bondage. That's what's Bhakti Punnanti Mannistha Swapakam Api Sambhavat. Even one born in family of meat eaters is purified if he engages in devotional service. Bhagavatam says. No. Jay Goswami cites in this verse also in logically supporting that anyone who chants about the pure life and the activities of Prahlad Maharaj is free from the reactions of material activities. See, not only chanting Hare Krishna, even um, hear and chants about pure, pure devotee of Krishna will become purified. So that's what Bhakti Paresha Anubhava Viraktir Anyatra Chaishatrike Eka Khala Prapatya Manasya Yathaneshu Shyos Tuste Puste Kshudapayo Anughasham Tusti Pusti Kshudapayo. It's very important for us actually. Like devotion, direct experience of the Supreme Lord, and detachment from other things. These three occur simultaneously. Devotion, direct experience of the Supreme Lord, and detachment from other things. For one who has taken shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, In the same way that pleasure, nourishment, and relief from hunger come simultaneously and increasingly with each bite for a person engaged in eating. Like Srila Jehu Goswami says that his analogy explains that bhakti or devotion may be compared to tusti, means satisfaction, because they both take the form of pleasure, paresha anubhava, experience of the Supreme Lord, and pusti means nourishment or knowledgeous, because both sustain one's life. Finally, virakti, detachment, right? And kshutapaya, cessation of hunger. Um, how many of you learned this law of marginal utility? I have mentioned previously also. Law of marginal utility means it's an economical principle. It has taken from here. Okay. The other day I was mentioning um, our Sri Sridhar Prabhu. I hope you remember law of
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes,
marginal
yes, yes. We were
utility.
discussing that. Yes.
So this is the worst, how, on certain level of eating, if you're eating a product, anything, after reaching some time, automatically what will happen? You become hungerless. Okay, then your hunger died, then you become normalized, then it will become stagnated slowly. Then your eating, like um will be slowly coming down. Then you stop going to eat, right? So these all principles have taken from our philosophy. A person who is eating not only becomes uninterested in other activities, but increasingly becomes uninterested in the food item, right? According to his satisfaction. On the other hand, according to Jiva Goswami, although one who is experiencing the blissful personality of Godhead, Krishna, becomes uninterested in anything other than Krishna. His attachment to Krishna increases at every moment. But in food item, if you compare you may get uninterested, right? But food item is not, but Krishna consciousness is not like that. I mean, food you become uninterested, but in Krishna consciousness, it increases every moment. Therefore, it is to be understood that the transcendental beauty and qualities of the Supreme Lord are not material. Since one never becomes satiated by relishing the bliss of the Supreme. So here Virakti is very significant in, Virakti means detachment, whereas Tyaga means renunciation. According to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the word renunciation can be used in a situation in which one considers giving up an enjoyable object, but by considering everything to be potential paraphernalia in the service of the Lord Krishna, as described in the previous, if you see into Bhagavatam, one need not to give thought to renunciation, for one uses everything in the proper way in the service of the Lord. That's called Yukta Vairagya Uchyate. The very pleasant analogy of good meal is given in this verse. So I do remember when I was in a plus one, plus two. So I used to read all this, economics. So a hungry man busily consuming a sumptuous plate of food is not interested in. There it has one fool, I forgot his name. He has mentioned laddu, laddu or something. And maybe I don't know where he has got this realization. They have compared with the food. Before him, our 500 years back, This fellow has given the solution in 18th century or 17th, in the late 17th century. So our Goswamis have given very, like, advanced than these people. These people might have, stolen from here only, definitely. Otherwise, it's not easy. Definitely, they might have stolen our philosophy. So, in fact, he considers any other topic or activity a disturbance to his concentration and mm, delicious meal. Like when the very pleasant analogy of a good meal is given, like why is a hungry man busily consuming a sumptuous plate of food is not interested in anything else happening around him, right? So, but ca- if one advances in Krishna consciousness, one considers anything unrelated to the devotional service of Krishna an obnoxious disturbance. Such concentrated love of God had have been Tivrena Bhakti Yogena Yajate Purusham Param. So if you read in Bhagavatam, you can understand one should not make an artificial show of renouncing the material world. Rather, one should systematically train the mind to see everything as an expansion of the opulence of the Supreme Personality of God. So that's why within the material world, one's material body is always subjected to birth and decay. Similarly, the life air, prana, is harassed by hunger and thirst. The mind is always anxious. The intelligence hankers for that which cannot be obtained. And all of the senses are ultimately exhausted by constant struggle in the material nature. A person who is not bewildered by the inevitable miseries of material existence and who remains aloof from them simply by remembering the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is to be considered Bhagavat Pradhan, the foremost devotee of the Lord. So, Madhvacharya, he says in three classes of intelligent living beings within this world, right? Namely, the demigods, ordinary human beings, and the demons. No need to think so much high philosophy. Demigods, human beings, and demons. A living being endowed with all auspicious qualities. In other words, a highly advanced devotee of the Lord, either on the earth or in higher planetary system, is called a Deva. Excuse me. A demigod. Ordinary human beings generally have good and bad qualities. And according to this mixture, they enjoy and suffer on earth. But those who are distinguished by the absence of good qualities and who are always inimical to pious life and devotional service of the Lord are called asuras or demons. And these three classes, the ordinary human beings, the demons, are terribly afflicted by birth, death, and hunger, whereas the godly persons, the demigods, are aloof from such bodily distress. The demigods remain aloof from such distresses because they are enjoying the result of their pious activities by the laws of karma. They are unaware of the gross suffering of the material world. Bhagavad Gita says, Traividya mam somapha bhuta papa yajneristva swargatim prapatyante te punyam asadhya surendra lokam asnanti divyam divideva bhogan. Remember anyone this verse? Bhagavad Gita, 9th chapter, 20th verse. It says right that those who study the Vedas and drink the som juice, seeking the heavenly planets, worship me indirectly. Krishna says they take birth on the planets of plan. Excuse me, Indra, where they enjoy godly delight. But the next verse of Bhagavad Gita also says that when one uses up the results of these pious activities, one who has to forfeit a status as a demigod, along with the pleasure of the heavenly kingdom, and are returned to earth as a Nara, an ordinary human being. Kshine punye mrityuloka visanti. In fact, the laws of nature are so subtle, and one may not even return to earth as a human, but may take birth as an insect or tree depending on the particular configuration of his karma. So that's what the pure devotee of the Lord, however, does not experience material misery because he has given up the bodily concept of life and identifies himself correctly as an eternal servitor of the Supreme Personality of God. Krishna stated also in Bhagavad Gita, like, Suchukam Kattam Avyayam. Even in this stage of regulative practice, the process of Bhakti Yoga is very joyful. Similarly, Lochandas Thakur also says in India, like, Mahaprabhu says in Sabhavatara Sarashiromani Kevalananda Kanda. Although there are various kandas or divisions of the Vedic disciplines such as Kama Kanda, after two activities and ceremonies like Jnana Kanda, like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Harinam Sankirtana movement is a Kevalananda Kanda, he says. The pathway of pure bliss simply by chanting the holy name of Krishna, eating the remnants of the sumptuous food offered to the Supreme Lord, and hearing the enchanting pastimes of the personality of Godhead, one merges into an ocean of bliss called Krishna consciousness. Fortunately, this blissful ocean is the eternal situation of every living entity, provided he gives up all his bogus concept of life. One should not identify himself as a gross material body, nor as a fickle mind, nor as speculative intelligence, nor should one foolishly identify himself with the so-called void of Buddhist imagination, nor should not even identify himself with the ocean of impersonal spiritual life called the Brahma Jyoti. That's why या निशा सर्वभूतानां तस्यं जागृते संज्ञां यस्यां जागृति भूतानि सा निशा पश्यतो मुने. What is night for all beings is the time of awakening for the self-control, and the time of awakening for all the being is night for all the introspective sage. Prabhupada has commented, there are two classes of intelligent men. The one is intelligent in the material activities for sense gratification, and the other is introspective and awake to the cultivation of self-realization. Thus, the more one can increase illicit sex, intoxication, meat eating, and gambling, the more one advances his prestige in a demonic society. Okay, so that we should understand. Anyone who is studying is a determination for the advanced stage of spiritual realization and can equally tolerate the onslaught of distress and happiness is certainly a person eligible for liberation. So, Prabhupada mentions in this verse purport, right? In the Varnashrama institution, the fourth stage of life is namely the renunciation or sannyasa. It is a painstaking situation, but one who is serious about making his life perfect should adopt the sannyas order of life in the spite of all difficulties. Okay. That's why Lord Chaitanya took sannyas at the age of 24, and his dependent young wife, as a old mother, had no one else to look after them. Yet for a higher cause he took sannyas and was steady in the discharge of higher duties. That is the way of achieving the liberation from material bondage. So we have to channelize our consciousness towards Krishna, not to material gain. In that way, we become detached naturally. We should not push forcefully to become detached. That is called Markat Vairagya Prabhupada says. We should understand. So the right way is we have to see always the purpose of life and the higher purpose. What is the highest purpose of the life? Then we can really fulfill the right desire. We can understand what is right choice, what is good for us. Okay. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vancha kalpatarubhyas kripa sindhubhi vacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. Any comments?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Srivastava Prabhu.
Oh, Hare Krishna Prabhu, you are here.
Where? Yeah, I came back yesterday night. Where you are?
Mayapur.
But it looks like you are at sea, not Ganga.